David Chen had always believed that life's biggest surprises came in the smallest moments. But nothing could have prepared him for what he would discover on that stormy Tuesday evening in the mountains of Colorado. The weekend camping trip with his 7-year-old daughter Lily had been perfect. 3 days of hiking, fishing, and roasting marshmallows under a blanket of stars. It was exactly what they both needed after another demanding month of running his software company. David had built his business from nothing, working 18-hour days for years. But becoming a single father had taught him that success meant nothing if he missed out on his daughter's childhood. "Dad, look at that cloud," Lily pointed out the window of their SUV. "It looks like a giant elephant." David glanced up at the darkening sky and felt a knot form in his stomach. The weather forecast had been clear when they left the campsite that morning. But mountain weather could change in minutes. "You're right, sweetheart. That's a really big elephant." The first drops of rain hit the windshield just as they started climbing the winding mountain road toward home. Within 20 minutes, the gentle shower had turned into a torrential downpour. David slowed the vehicle to a crawl, his knuckles white on the steering wheel as he tried to see through the sheets of rain. "I can't see anything, Daddy," Lily said, pressing her face to the side window. "It's okay, baby. We'll just take it slow." David's voice was calm, but his heart was racing. The mountain road was narrow with steep drops on one side and rocky walls on the other. In weather like this, it was dangerous. That's when the car started making the noise. At first, it was just a small clicking sound from under the hood. Then came the grinding. Finally, steam began pouring out from the front of the engine, and David had no choice but to pull over at the next safe spot he could find. They sat in the car for a moment, listening to the rain pounding on the roof. David pulled out his phone. No signal. They were in one of those dead zones that dotted the mountain highways. "Are we stuck, Dad?" Lily asked, her voice small. David looked around. Through the rain, he could see they had stopped near what looked like an old stone building about 50 yards off the road. It appeared to be some kind of church or chapel, though it looked like it hadn't been used in years. "Just for a little while," he told her, "but I see a building over there. We can wait inside until the storm passes, then I'll figure out how to get help." They grabbed their jackets and emergency bag from the back seat. David took Lily's hand and together they ran through the rain toward the building. The old wooden door was unlocked and they pushed inside, both of them soaking wet and breathing hard. David found a light switch and flicked it on. To his surprise, it worked. They were standing in a small chapel with wooden pews and stained glass windows. It was dusty and obviously abandoned, but it was dry and warm. "Wow," Lily whispered, looking around with wide eyes. "It's like a fairy tale church." That's when they heard the sound. It was faint at first, almost lost in the noise of the storm outside. But as David listened more carefully, he realized it was crying. Someone was crying somewhere in the building. "Stay right here," he told Lily, his protective instincts immediately alert. "Don't move from this spot." David walked toward the front of the chapel, following the sound. As he got closer to the altar, he could see something that made his blood run cold. There, chained to the stone altar, was a young woman in a torn and dirty wedding dress. She looked up at him with terrified eyes, and David's heart nearly stopped. "Please don't hurt me," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "Please, I'll do whatever you want, just don't hurt me." "I'm not going to hurt you," David said quickly, holding up his hands. "I'm here to help. My name is David. What happened to you?" The woman stared at him for a long moment as if trying to decide whether to trust him. She looked to be in her mid-20s with dark hair and kind eyes that were now filled with fear and exhaustion. Her wedding dress was expensive looking but torn in several places, and David could see bruises on her arms. "They left me here," she said finally. "When they heard your car, they ran. I think they thought it was the police." David immediately pulled out his phone, then remembered there was no signal. "Okay, first things first. Let me get these chains off you. Do you know where the key is?" She shook her head. "Tony has it. My ex-fiancé. He's the one who did this." David examined the chains. They were old but solid. "I think I can break these," he said. In the emergency bag he always kept in the car, he had a small toolkit. "Hold on." As he worked on the chains, the woman began to talk. Her name was Maria Santos, and she had been about to marry a man she didn't love because her family owed him money. When she tried to escape on their wedding day, he and his friends had brought her to this abandoned chapel and chained her up as punishment. "He said he'd let me think about my decision overnight," she said, her voice shaking. But I think he was planning to leave me here much longer than that. With a sharp crack, the old chain finally broke. Maria rubbed her wrists where the metal had cut into her skin, and David helped her stand up. She was weak and unsteady on her feet. "Daddy?" Lily's voice came from behind them. Despite being told to stay put, she had crept closer to see what was happening. When she saw Maria, her eyes went wide. "Are you a real princess?" Maria looked down at her ruined wedding dress and managed a small smile. "Not exactly, sweetheart. This is Lily," David explained. "Lily, this is Maria. Some bad people were mean to her, but she's safe now." Lily immediately went to her backpack and pulled out her favorite stuffed animal, a small brown teddy bear named Coco. "Here," she said, offering it to Maria. "Coco always makes me feel better when I'm scared." Maria took the bear with tears in her eyes. "Thank you, honey. That's very kind of you." David looked around the chapel. The storm was still raging outside, and even if he could get a signal to call for help, it would be hours before anyone could reach them on these mountain roads. "We need to wait until the storm passes," he said. "But don't worry. You're safe now. I promise no one is going to hurt you." As they settled in to wait, David found himself studying Maria's face. Despite everything she had been through, there was something strong about her, something that suggested she was a fighter. And the gentle way she spoke to Lily told him she had a good heart. He had no idea that this chance encounter in an abandoned chapel would change all their lives forever. All he knew was that he had found someone who needed help, and he wasn't going to let her down. Outside, the storm continued to rage, but inside the old chapel, 3 strangers had become something like a family, even if they didn't know it yet. The storm showed no signs of letting up. Rain continued to pound against the stained glass windows of the old chapel, while thunder rolled across the mountains. David had managed to find some old blankets in a storage closet, and the 3 of them sat together on one of the wooden pews, sharing warmth and waiting. Lily had fallen asleep curled up against Maria's side, still clutching her stuffed bear that she had given to the young woman earlier. Maria gently stroked the little girl's hair, and David noticed how natural the gesture seemed. "She's beautiful," Maria whispered, careful not to wake Lily. "You're lucky to have her." "I am," David agreed, looking down at his daughter with love in his eyes. "It's just been the 2 of us for the past 3 years. Her mom died in a car accident when Lily was 4. "I'm so sorry," Maria said softly. "That must have been incredibly hard." David nodded. "It was, still is sometimes. But Lily keeps me going. She reminds me every day what's really important in life." He paused, then looked at Maria. "What about you? Do you have children?" Maria shook her head. "No. Tony always said we'd have kids after we got married, but honestly, the thought of bringing children into that situation terrified me." She was quiet for a moment. "I couldn't bear the thought of them growing up afraid the way I've been afraid." "Tell me about your family," David said gently. "You mentioned they owe money to this Tony guy?" Maria's face grew sad. "My parents came here from Mexico when I was 5. My dad worked construction. My mom cleaned houses. They saved every penny to buy a small restaurant in Denver. It was their dream." She took a shaky breath. 3 years ago, Dad had a heart attack. The medical bills were enormous, and the restaurant started failing because he couldn't work. Mom got sick from the stress. David listened without interrupting, sensing that Maria needed to tell this story. "I was in art school then," she continued. "I wanted to be a painter, had a scholarship and everything. But I dropped out to help run the restaurant and take care of Mom. We borrowed money from everyone we could, but it wasn't enough. That's when someone told us about Tony Morales. He's a loan shark," David said. It wasn't a question. Among other things, he owned several businesses in the city, some legal, some not. He offered to pay all our debts and Dad's medical bills in exchange for me marrying him. Said he'd been watching me and decided I was the kind of wife he wanted. Maria's voice was flat, emotionless. "At first I said no. But then Mom collapsed and needed surgery. Tony said if I agreed to marry him, he'd take care of everything." David felt anger building in his chest. "So you agreed. What choice did I have? My parents were dying and we had nothing left. I thought I could go through with it, you know? I told myself it was just sacrifice. Like what my parents did when they came to America." She looked down at Lily sleeping peacefully. "But then I met his friends, saw how he treated people who owed him money. I realized what kind of man he really was." "That's when you tried to run?" Maria nodded. "This morning was supposed to be our wedding day. I got dressed, went to the church, and just couldn't do it. I ran. Tony caught me about a mile away. He was furious. Said I had embarrassed him in front of important people. She touched her bruised wrist where the chains had been. He brought me here with 2 of his guys. Said I could think about my decision overnight, but I think he planned to leave me here much longer as punishment. David was quiet for a long time, processing what he'd heard. Finally, he spoke. What happens to your family if you don't marry him? I don't know, Maria admitted, tears forming in her eyes. He said he'd make sure my parents lost everything, that my mom would never get the treatment she needs. My little brother Carlos is only 16. I can't let them suffer because of my choice. There has to be another way, David said firmly. Maria looked at him with a mixture of hope and despair. You don't understand. Tony has connections everywhere. The police, the courts, local politicians. He owns people. Even if I could prove what he did to me today, it would be my word against his. And he'd take it out on my family. David was quiet, thinking. As a successful businessman, he understood power and how it worked. He also understood that money could be a tool for good when used correctly. What if it wasn't just your word against his? He asked quietly. What do you mean? I mean, what if you had help? What if someone with resources and connections stood up with you? Maria stared at him. Why would you do that? You don't even know me. David looked down at his daughter, still sleeping peacefully against Maria's shoulder. Maybe not, but I know enough. I know you're brave enough to run from something that scared you. I know you're kind enough to be gentle with a child even when you're terrified. And I know you love your family enough to sacrifice your own happiness for them. But it's too dangerous, Maria protested. Tony isn't just some small-time criminal. He has money, power, people who do whatever he tells them to do. If you get involved, you could lose everything. Your daughter could get hurt. David considered this. Everything Maria said was true. Getting involved in her situation could put him and Lily at risk. The smart thing, the safe thing, would be to help her get to the police and then walk away. But as he watched Maria gently adjust the blanket around Lily's shoulders, something in his chest tightened. He thought about his wife, Catherine, and what she would have said about walking away from someone who needed help. He thought about the values he was trying to teach Lily about standing up for what's right. My wife used to say that we're not put on this earth just to take care of ourselves, he said quietly. That our job is to help each other whenever we can. He looked directly at Maria. I have resources that most people don't have. Money, lawyers, security. What good are those things if I don't use them to help someone who needs it? Maria's eyes filled with tears. You barely know me. I know enough, David repeated. And Lily likes you. She's a pretty good judge of character. As if she could hear her name, Lily stirred and opened her eyes. Are we still stuck in the storm? She asked sleepily. For a little while longer, sweetheart, David told her. Lily sat up and looked at Maria with concern. Are you still scared? A little, Maria admitted honestly. Don't worry, Lily said with the absolute confidence that only a child could have. My daddy fixes everything. He'll fix your problems too. David felt the weight of his daughter's trust and Maria's desperate hope. Outside, lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating the chapel in stark white light. He made his decision. When this storm clears and we get out of here, he said to Maria, you're coming home with us. We'll figure out how to help your family and deal with Tony. You don't have to face this alone anymore. Maria looked at him with disbelief. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. David's voice was calm but determined. No one should have to choose between their freedom and their family's safety. We'll find another way. For the first time since they'd found her, Maria smiled. A real smile, full of hope and gratitude. Thank you, she whispered. Outside, the storm was finally beginning to weaken, but inside the old chapel, 3 lives had become forever connected by an act of kindness and courage. By morning, the storm had finally passed. David managed to get a phone signal and called for a tow truck, then arranged for a rental car to be delivered. As they waited, Maria seemed different in the daylight. Less frightened, but also more aware of what accepting David's help really meant. You can still change your mind, she told him, as they loaded their few belongings into the rental car. Once you drive me away from here, there's no going back. Tony will find out who you are. David looked at her seriously. Are you having second thoughts about accepting help? No, Maria said quickly. But I am worried about what this might cost you and Lily. Let me worry about that, David said gently. Right now, let's just focus on getting you somewhere safe. The drive to David's house took 2 hours. Maria stared out the window as they drove through increasingly upscale neighborhoods, finally turning into a gated community with massive homes hidden behind tall trees and stone walls. You live here? Maria asked, trying not to sound overwhelmed. It's just home to us, David said simply, pulling into the driveway of a large but welcoming house with huge windows and a wraparound porch. Lily bounced out of the car as soon as it stopped. Come on, Maria. I want to show you my room and my art supplies. Inside, the house was beautiful but clearly lived in. Children's drawings covered the refrigerator, toys were scattered in the living room, and family photos lined the hallways. It felt like a real home, not just a showplace. The guest room is down this hall. David showed Maria to a comfortable bedroom with its own bathroom. Take all the time you need to rest and clean up. We'll figure out our next steps after you've had a chance to recover. Maria stood in the doorway of the beautiful room, still wearing her torn wedding dress. I don't have any other clothes, she realized suddenly. Don't worry about that, David said. I'll have some things delivered this afternoon. For now, there are robes and comfortable clothes in the closet that should fit you. After Maria disappeared into the guest room, David called his lawyer, Michael Rodriguez, who had been handling his business legal work for years. I need your help with something unusual, David explained over the phone, and it might be dangerous. An hour later, Michael arrived at the house. He listened carefully as David and Maria explained the situation. Michael was a sharp lawyer in his 40s who had grown up in neighborhoods where men like Tony Morales operated. This is serious, David, Michael said after hearing everything. Tony Morales isn't just some small-time loan shark. He's connected to organized crime families in 3 states. If we're going to help Maria, we need to be very careful about how we do it. What are our options? David asked. Legally, Maria has grounds for several charges against him. Kidnapping, assault, illegal detention, extortion. The problem is proving it and keeping her safe while we build a case. Michael looked at Maria. Are you willing to testify against him? If it means my family will be safe, yes, Maria said without hesitation. Michael nodded approvingly. Good. I have contacts at the FBI who specialize in organized crime. This might be the break they've been waiting for to build a case against Morales' operation. Over the next few days, Maria began to settle into life at David's house. The change in her was remarkable. Away from the constant fear and stress, her natural personality began to emerge. She was funny, intelligent, and had a natural warmth that drew people to her. Lily was completely charmed by their house guest. Maria had found art supplies in the house and began teaching Lily new painting techniques. The two of them would spend hours together, creating colorful pictures and talking about everything from favorite animals to dreams for the future. Look, Daddy! Lily ran into David's home office one afternoon, holding up a painting. Maria taught me how to paint shadows. David looked at the picture, impressed by the improvement in his daughter's technique. That's beautiful, sweetheart. You're getting really good at this. Maria says I have natural talent, Lily beamed. She's going to teach me how to paint people next. David found Maria in the kitchen cleaning paintbrushes. She had been at their house for 4 days now, and he was struck by how natural it felt to have her there. She helped with cooking, played with Lily, and somehow made their home feel more complete. Thank you, he said, joining her at the sink. For what? For making Lily so happy. She lights up when she's with you. Maria smiled. She's an amazing little girl. You've done such a good job raising her. I've tried my best, but it hasn't always been easy doing it alone. There was a moment of comfortable silence between them. David found himself noticing things about Maria that had nothing to do with her situation. The way she hummed while she worked, how she always made sure Lily washed her hands before eating, the genuine laughter that filled the house when she was around. I keep thinking this is all too good to be true, Maria said quietly. That I'll wake up and find myself back in that chapel. You're so... Fee here, David assured her. I promise. That evening, as David was putting Lily to bed, his daughter asked the question he had been expecting. Daddy, is Maria going to stay with us forever? David sat down on the edge of Lily's bed. I don't know, sweetheart. Maria has her own family to think about and her own life to rebuild. But she's happy here, Lily said. And she makes you happy too. David was surprised by his daughter's observation. What makes you say that? You smile more when she's around. And you don't work as late at night. Lily looked at her father with the serious expression she got when she was thinking hard about something. "I think Mommy would like her." David's throat tightened with emotion. "Yeah, baby. I think she would too." But their peaceful bubble was about to burst. The next morning, Michael called with disturbing news. "Tony's people have been asking questions around town," he told David over the phone. "They know Maria was helped by someone with a nice car, and they're checking luxury car rentals and tow truck services. It's only a matter of time before they connect the dots to you." David looked across the kitchen where Maria was helping Lily with her breakfast. They were laughing at something silly Lily had said, and the sight made his chest tight with an emotion he hadn't felt since his wife died. "How much time do we have?" David asked quietly. "Maybe a day or two if we're lucky. I've been in touch with the FBI and they want to move quickly. They're willing to offer Maria protection in exchange for her cooperation, but it would mean leaving immediately." David hung up and walked over to where Maria and Lily sat at the breakfast table. Maria took one look at his face and knew something was wrong. "What is it?" she asked. "We need to talk," David said, glancing meaningfully at Lily. After sending Lily to play in her room, David told Maria about Michael's call. He watched the fear creep back into her eyes, the same fear he had seen that first night in the chapel. "So this is it," she said quietly. "I have to leave. The FBI can protect you," David said, "but yes, you'll have to go into some kind of protective custody until they can build their case." Maria nodded, trying to be brave. "When? Tonight, probably." "I'm sorry, Maria, I wish we had more time." "Time for what?" she asked, looking at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. David realized he didn't have an answer to that question. Or maybe he did, but he wasn't ready to say it out loud. All he knew was that the thought of Maria leaving made him feel like he was losing something precious he had only just discovered. Maria stared at David for a long moment before answering his question. "Time to figure out what this is," she said softly, gesturing between them. "Time to see if what I'm feeling is real or just gratitude for being saved." David's heart skipped a beat. "What are you feeling?" Before Maria could answer, Lily came running back into the kitchen. "I finished my picture," she announced, holding up a drawing of 3 stick figures holding hands in front of a house. "It's our family." David and Maria both looked at the drawing, then at each other. The word family hung in the air between them. "It's beautiful, sweetheart," David said, his voice slightly hoarse. "Why don't you go put it on the refrigerator?" As Lily skipped away, Maria touched David's hand. "I need you to know something before I leave tonight. These past few days with you and Lily have been the happiest of my life. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe, like I could be myself." "Then don't leave," David said suddenly. "David, we both know I don't have a choice. There's always a choice. I have security, resources. We could disappear, start over somewhere else." Maria shook her head. "And spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders? What kind of life would that be for Lily? She deserves to grow up feeling safe, going to school, having friends. You can't ask her to give up her whole world for me." David knew she was right, but the thought of losing her made him feel desperate. "Then we'll find another way." "The FBI thinks they can build a case against Tony within 6 months, Maria said. "If I cooperate fully, testify, help them gather evidence, they think they can put him away for a long time. 6 months is a long time. It's not forever." That afternoon, FBI agents Rebecca Foster and James Park arrived at the house. They were professional but kind, explaining the witness protection program and what would be expected of Maria. "We've been trying to build a case against Morales for 3 years, Agent Foster explained. "Your testimony about the kidnapping and extortion could be the key we need. But I won't lie to you, it won't be easy. You'll have to live under an assumed identity, limited contact with the outside world, and constant supervision until the trial." "What about my family?" Maria asked. "Tony still has leverage over them." "We're working on that," Agent Park said. "We believe we can get your parents into a protection program as well, at least until Morales is arrested and the immediate threat is over." David listened to all of this, feeling more helpless than he had since his wife's death. All his money and business connections couldn't fix this situation or keep Maria safe the way the FBI could. That evening, as Maria packed the few belongings she had acquired during her stay, Lily sat on the bed watching her with confused eyes. "Why do you have to leave?" Lily asked for the 3rd time. "Remember how I told you about the bad man who hurt me?" Maria said gently, sitting down next to the little girl. Well, the police need my help to make sure he can't hurt anyone else. But that means I have to go away for a while. How long is a while? I don't know exactly, but I promise you something, okay? I will never forget you, and I will come back to see you as soon as I can. Lily threw her arms around Maria's neck. I don't want you to go. You're part of our family now. Maria looked over Lily's head at David, who was standing in the doorway watching them. His expression was a mixture of pain and resignation that broke her heart. Sometimes people who love each other have to be apart for a while, Maria told Lily. But that doesn't mean the love goes away. Late that night, after Lily had finally fallen asleep, David and Maria sat together on the porch swing, waiting for the FBI agents to arrive. I need you to promise me something, David said quietly. What? Promise me you'll be careful, that you'll do whatever they tell you to stay safe. I can't bear the thought of something happening to you. I promise, Maria said, but I need you to promise me something too. Anything. Promise me you won't put your life on hold waiting for me. Lily needs you to be present, to be happy. Don't let my situation consume your life. David was quiet for a long moment. I can't promise that, he said finally. Because the truth is, Maria, I'm falling in love with you. Maybe I already have fallen in love with you, and you don't put love on hold. Maria turned to face him, her eyes bright with tears. David, I know the timing is terrible. I know we've only known each other for a week. But when I look at you with Lily, when I see how you light up our home, when I think about you not being here. He took her hands in his. I know what love feels like, and this is it. I love you too, Maria whispered. That's what makes this so hard. They sat in silence, holding each other until headlights appeared in the driveway. Agent Foster knocked gently on the door. It's time, she said softly when David answered. The next few minutes passed in a blur. Maria hugged David tightly, whispering promises to stay safe and come back to him. She kissed Lily's forehead as the little girl slept, leaving a letter on her nightstand for when she woke up. David watched from the porch as the FBI car disappeared into the night, taking Maria away from them. He stood there for a long time, feeling like part of his heart had just driven away. The next morning, Lily found Maria's letter. David had to read it to her because she couldn't make out all the words. My dear Lily, the letter began. Thank you for sharing your daddy with me, and for showing me what a real family looks like. You are brave and kind and smart, and I know you're going to grow up to be an amazing woman. Take care of your daddy for me, and remember that love doesn't disappear just because someone goes away. I will carry you both in my heart every day. Love always, Maria. P.S. Keep practicing your painting. You're going to be a great artist someday. Lily was quiet for the rest of the day, and David struggled to maintain normalcy while his own heart was breaking. But their problems were far from over. 3 days after Maria left, David got a call that made his blood run cold. Mr. Chen? The voice on the phone was calm and polite. My name is Vincent Torres. I work for Mr. Tony Morales. I believe you have something that belongs to him. I don't know what you're talking about, David said, his mind racing. I think you do. Mr. Morales would like to meet with you to discuss a mutual friend. Let's say tonight at 8 o'clock. The old warehouse on 5th Street. Come alone or things could get unpleasant for everyone involved. Are you threatening me? I'm simply extending an invitation. Oh, and Mr. Chen? Bring your daughter. Mr. Morales is very interested in meeting her. The line went dead. David's hands shook as he realized what was happening. Tony had found them, and now he was using Lily as leverage. David immediately called Michael, then Agent Foster. But as he looked at Lily playing quietly in her room, still sad about Maria's departure, he realized that everything was about to change again, and this time his daughter was directly in danger. David's hands trembled as he hung up the phone. The threat to Lily had changed everything. This wasn't just about protecting Maria anymore. Now his daughter was directly in danger. He immediately called Agent Foster. Tony's people contacted me, he said without preamble. They want me to meet them tonight, and they specifically mentioned bringing Lily. Absolutely not, Agent Foster said firmly. You're not going anywhere near them, and neither is your daughter. We're sending a protection detail to your house immediately. What about Maria? Is she safe? She's secure. But Mr. Chen, I need you to understand something. Tony Morales is desperate. Maria's testimony could destroy his entire organization. Desperate men do dangerous things. Within an hour, FBI agents had set up a security perimeter around David's house. Agent Park explained that they had been preparing to arrest Tony for weeks, but needed more evidence to make the charges stick. "Your friend Maria has been incredibly helpful," he told David. "She's provided details about Tony's operation that we never could have gotten otherwise. But we need one more piece of evidence to guarantee a conviction." "What kind of evidence?" "We need him to incriminate himself. Make threats, admit to crimes on record." Agent Park looked at David seriously. "And we think his obsession with getting Maria back might be exactly what we need." David didn't like where this was heading. "You want to use me as bait. We want to use his anger against him. He's already threatened you and your daughter. If we can get him to repeat those threats while we're recording, along with everything else we have, he'll go away for a very long time." That evening, David sat in his living room with Lily, trying to act normal while FBI agents monitored the house. Lily was still sad about Maria being gone, but she seemed to sense that something else was wrong too. "Daddy, are we in trouble?" she asked, curled up against his side as they watched a movie. "No, sweetheart. There are just some bad people who are angry about us helping Maria, but the police are here to keep us safe." "Will Maria come back when the bad people are gone?" David's heart ached at the hope in his daughter's voice. "I hope so, baby. I really hope so." The phone rang at exactly 8 o'clock. David answered it while Agent Foster listened on another line, recording everything. "You missed our meeting, Mr. Chen," Vincent Torres said, his voice colder than before. "I don't have meetings with criminals," David replied, following the script the agents had given him. "That's unfortunate. Mr. Morales is very disappointed. He was looking forward to discussing your interference in his personal affairs." "You mean kidnapping and assault?" Vincent laughed. "Maria Santos is Mr. Morales' fiancée. What happens between a man and his woman is nobody else's business. Maria is under federal protection because of what your boss did to her. Federal protection won't last forever, and neither will your little girl's safety if you continue to interfere." David's blood ran cold, but he kept his voice steady. "Are you threatening my daughter?" "I'm simply pointing out that accidents happen to people who stick their noses where they don't belong. Especially to their children." Agent Foster nodded approvingly. They had just gotten Tony's associate to threaten a child on a recorded line, a federal crime that would add years to any sentence. The conversation continued for several more minutes, with Vincent making increasingly direct threats while David kept him talking. Finally, the man hung up, apparently satisfied that he had made his point. "We've got enough," Agent Foster told David. "Vincent Torres just confessed to conspiracy, extortion, and making terroristic threats against a minor. Combined with everything else, we can move tonight." "What about Maria?" "She'll be free to go as soon as Tony and his key associates are in custody." The arrests happened just after midnight. Tony Morales was taken from his house in handcuffs, along with Vincent Torres and 6 other members of his organization. FBI agents also raided 3 of Tony's businesses, seizing records that would help prosecutors build an even stronger case. David didn't sleep that night. He sat by the window watching the street, waiting for Agent Foster to call with news. When the phone finally rang at 6 in the morning, he grabbed it before the first ring finished. "It's over," Agent Foster said. "Tony Morales and his top people are in federal custody. Maria is being released from protection today." David felt tears of relief in his eyes. "When can she come home?" "That depends on where home is," Agent Foster said with a smile in her voice. "She's asking to be brought to your house." 3 hours later, David and Lily stood on their front porch watching a black FBI car pull into their driveway. When Maria stepped out looking tired but smiling, Lily screamed with joy and ran to her. Maria, you came back." Maria caught Lily in her arms and spun her around. "I promised I would, didn't I?" David walked over slowly, hardly able to believe this moment was real. Maria looked at him over Lily's head, and the love in her eyes took his breath away. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey yourself," David replied, pulling both Maria and Lily into his arms. Later, after Lily had fallen asleep between them on the couch, exhausted from excitement, David and Maria finally had a chance to talk privately. "Agent Foster told me what you did," Maria said, "how you helped them get the evidence they needed. That was incredibly brave." "I was terrified," David admitted. "When they threatened Lily, I would have done anything to protect her. And to protect me. And to protect you." David took her hands in his. Maria, these past 2 weeks without you have been the longest of my life. I know we haven't known each other very long, and I know this whole situation has been crazy, but I can't imagine my life without you in it anymore. Maria's eyes filled with tears. I spent every day in that safe house thinking about you and Lily, wondering if what I felt was real, if you could really love someone with so much baggage, so many complications. The only complication I care about is whether you want to stay, whether you want to be part of this family. Maria looked down at Lily, sleeping peacefully against her shoulder, then back at David. I've never wanted anything more in my life. 6 months later, David and Maria stood in a small chapel, not the abandoned one where they had first met, but a beautiful little church filled with friends and family. Lily stood beside them as maid of honor, beaming with pride as her father and Maria exchanged vows. I promise to love you both, Maria said, looking from David to Lily, for all the days of my life. After the ceremony, as they walked out of the church together, Lily skipped ahead of them, scattering flower petals in the air. Are you happy, Mrs. Chen? David asked, kissing his new wife's hand. Maria smiled, watching their daughter play in the sunshine. I never knew I could be this happy, she said. I never knew family could feel like this. Like what? Safe, peaceful, like coming home. David pulled her closer. Well, you better get used to it because you're stuck with us now. Maria laughed, the sound bright and free. I can't think of anywhere I'd rather be stuck. As they walked toward their new life together, all three of them knew that sometimes the most beautiful families are the ones that choose each other, the ones that are built not just on blood but on love, courage, and the decision to stand by each other no matter what comes next.